What is the promised land? What's the meaning of the promised land? What kind of flowers grow in the promised land? And trees and birds singing. Promised land for humanity. We have that very important milestone of Moses' death, and he wasn't able to enter the promised land. And there's a whole back history there. But also the nature of human life, the way it is. The roles different people have. One person doesn't do it all. We're a community. We respect different roles, different missions. You have all of that. But also, the bigger question is, what really is the promised land? What's the whole point of this pedagogy? Coming into a promised land. And looking at the readings today, a couple of things triggered this thought, which is not absolutely new at all, but it's there. It says, let me pull out the text, that'll be the best way to do it. So obviously, after Moses' death, Joshua is leading, and they're just crossing the Jordan. That's where we are today. They're coming into Jericho, around it. That'll be down the road a little bit here, a few days' time probably. I didn't check forward quickly to see the pattern of events. And so we're right there, the Jordan is stopped, and this is the Jordan Valley, the Sea of Galilee over there. And less than 2 hours driving south, an hour and a half, you're down at Gilgal, the first settlement area. Once they crossed over, the baptismal site. That's the traditional spot, and that's the reason for the baptismal site there also. Crossing through the waters into the promised land. So listen to these words of the psalm, which is a great, also a great interpretation of what is the promised land. It's Psalm 114. And the words are, when Israel came forth from Egypt, the house of Jacob from a people of alien tongue, Judah became his sanctuary, Israel his domain. So this land actually isn't belonging to the people. It's belonging to God. It's his domain, it's his sanctuary. Now, obviously, God doesn't need land. He's got the whole cosmos. But what's all this metaphor? It's really, it's when the human being comes into a place where God is God. That's a good place to be. And when the human being is in a place where God is not God, where there are false gods ruling, choices ruling, desires ruling our hearts, then we're alienated. And there's bitterness and dissatisfaction and anguish and anxiety. Now the sun isn't up there yet, but that crown of that palm tree is pretty nice in the background of that light. The house of Jacob, Judah became his sanctuary, Israel his domain. So it's about God's ownership of the land. That's a big deal. And if we fast forward into the gospel, and we have just started the book of Joshua for crossing the land, now we go into the gospel passage. In Matthew 18, we have this very well-known, very riveting story of the unjust servant who has been pardoned by his master, by his employer, by the king, and he's been forgiven his debts, and he's free. So he's got to a place that he really was desiring to be in. And he must have been in terrible anguish as he faced his master with all his debt. I have a sense we're going to see the sun coming out there in a moment. And that's being confirmed as we speak and as we observe. So it's rather high up before we get to see it. It's 6:26, gosh. It's amazing, isn't it? And we're almost 2 months after the summer solstice. So we're in the 4 longest months of daylight. We're coming to an end of the 4 longest daylight months. And it's about an hour later than when we had sunrise 2 months ago. I wonder if I can get in there to get the sunrise from this angle here. Yeah, yes. Let me squeeze this in a little bit here. There we go. Come on, camera. I'm trying to move the screen. There we go. Just playing, guys. So this guy has a bit of peace now. The master has given him the olive branch, but then he goes out and strangles his companion for much less. And so there the big thought is, our promised land is the land of reconciliation. It's the land of together in God's sanctuary. And obviously this land here is so important because it carries the memory of all God's intervention. But really, everywhere human beings are, we're entering the promised land of reconciliation. The promised land of recognizing that we haven't made everything and that we have space for our brothers and sisters, for all of them. In our families, and a new child appears on the horizon, is coming, arriving, like the train is coming into the station. The jet is flying in to land, and there's a new child in the family. And there's room for the person who got injured and needs a lot of care. This is the promised land. The promised land of reconciliation with God, whose sanctuary the land is, and the promised land of living with all those who are in his image and likeness. Maybe it's a nice thing to do, a nice exercise spiritually, to do a little contemplation in that regard. And also then to see how much of the promised land is my life and my daily life. Maybe we should just leave it like that, because that's all very, very grace-filled. It's really the view of the whole of history of salvation. It's the Garden of Eden restored for humanity, but at a whole new level. We've been completely forgiven, and we completely forgive. We reconcile. We don't bear grudges. And it's still a promised land. We still have to cross over, because most of us have various issues with all of this, with all of these relationships with God and with neighbor. And to grow in this way. May you be blessed today, people. Have a wonderful day. Think of somebody maybe you can help to feel that they belong and they're reconciled and they're unburdened. That they can share also in the promised land. That they have a good friend in you, one who unburdens them from their debts, gives them time. See you later, alligators.